everybody, Katie here. I am excited to open up a journal with you, and I recently bought a couple of these 8.5 by 8.5 inch journals. They are filled with watercolor paper, which is really nice for my mixed media and collage work. I will put the link in the notes below of this exact journal. But the reason I wanted to move forward with some bound journals is just to give myself a little place to play and experiment with some of my materials. I'm also wanting to play around with my style a little bit and just see what kind of getting outside of my comfort zone can do for me. And so I think just having these journals is a really great place to do that. So in this video, I just want to walk through step by step kind of where my mind is when I'm creating. I've had several of you comment on what the process is behind my work and why I choose to put a line in a certain place and how I, choose to make marks and that kind of thing. So I just thought I would take it slow today and kind of walk you through my thought process when I am creating. So basically my first rule of thumb for myself, and this is just something that I've had to learn to do, is to just start with making a few marks. And whether that is with markers, pencil, paint, whatever you want to grab or whatever you have access to, the best thing for me is just to get moving and to just get some marks on the paper, because we all know looking at a blank sheet of paper, it's kind of scary or intimidating. You don't know where to start. So I've learned to push myself past that point and just kind of make some marks, knowing full well that I will probably be painting or collaging over those marks, so they don't have to be perfect. And I can kind of just have fun with them. And part of working in this journal is just to use some new items I have. These markers are new. I'm planning on bringing them on a upcoming trip that we're going on. So I just kind of wanted to test them out. And then this paint that I'm using is just, usually I use like a pouring paint when I'm doing the paint spreads, but this is just regular acrylic paint that I'm using, and I really like the vibrancy. And then this paint here is actually quite old, and so it's perfect for journals like this where I can just still use it, but it might not be in the best condition. But you can see it's still quite vibrant. And so this isn't only about choosing what materials to use, but also just the technique. So I am a big fan of just using a piece of chipboard to pull the paint. It's just a little less messy for me, and I lose a little bit of the control, which is what I like. And so I'm starting to feel more and more confident with just pulling the paint and seeing what happens. And here comes some of that pouring paint. And I know with this paint, it's a little thinner, so I will get a little more coverage than the other paints that I just used. And my goal here is just to fill up the pages. I don't have to fill them completely, but just to get some color all over the place, just to create a good foundation for my upcoming layers and work that I'm doing. And I just want to remind you, you don't have to know where you're going to end up in your work. I usually do not know where I'm going to end up, and that is what makes it exciting and scary at the same time. But on a deeper level, that is where we learn to build our courage and to tap into our curiosity and our intuition, because when we don't quite know what the end is going to be, we can feel uneasy about things. But art is a great place to just experiment with the unknown and play around and see what happens and really think through what's the worst that could happen here. And that is where art has just really helped me personally in my life, because it's taught me to be brave and to try things and to think outside the box a little bit. So I encourage you to do so as well. If you're feeling some resistance, just keep going, keep trying, and worst case scenario, you have to rip out a page of your journal and start over. But really, just the showing up and giving yourself an opportunity to try new things is the most important part. So I added some circles here with a roll of tape, and now I'm just taking some gesso and filling in those circles. I have been loving gesso lately. It offers a very matte white paint feel, and it's very transparent, so you can see through it a little bit. You can layer it up if you want. And this is where I will be honest with you. It's starting to feel a little restrictive, and I'm pretty sure it's because I'm trying to stay within the lines here. And if you know my work, I tend to just make a lot of scribbles and kind of feel a little more fluid with my work. And this is really starting to feel restrictive. So I'm just letting you know that sometimes I feel that as well. And I'm just working through it. I'm just going to go and kind of trust the process here and see where we're going to end up. But yeah, anytime I draw lines and then have to work within those lines, I start feeling a little bit uneasy, I guess, because that's where the perfectionism comes in, and I lose kind of the flow of my natural process. So we will just see where this takes me. And I am just going to continue to push myself outside my comfort zone a little bit, adding some lines here, which I do use geometric lines quite a bit in my work. So this feels okay to me. But again, I don't quite know what I'm doing or where this is going, but it's feeling good. It's feeling balanced. I have a lot of fluid work along with more linear work, so that is feeling good. And this is just a piece of chipboard here I'm using kind of as a ruler. So this is the point in a composition where I really start to think through like what's the next step? How am I gonna make this kind of all come together? And I decided I'm gonna paint in some of these sections here that I just drew with the lines and kind of see where that's gonna take me. The first thing I am noticing is when I paint over this marker, it's bleeding a little bit, and that's okay. I am just gonna accept that and move on. Second thing I am noticing is that I do not enjoy painting with this paint sponge. I had it on hand, it was on my desk here, and so I grabbed it, but not my favorite in this particular setting. So as much as creativity and creating artwork can be a meditative type of experience, it's also okay to tap into yourself and notice when you're feeling uncomfortable or you're feeling a little disappointed that this looks a certain way, or maybe super excited that this is coming out a certain way. It's okay to notice how you're feeling and to continue anyways. Oftentimes, resistance pops in and the inner critic pops in, and it can feel really, really uncomfortable to move forward. And so just notice those things and continue them as well. And sometimes just identifying what it is you're feeling helps you move forward. So I am continuing with filling in some of these lines that I drew. And again, still feeling a little restrictive here, but just gonna continue to go with it. I felt like this piece needed a little bit of green, so I'm adding a little bit of that in here. And I actually am starting to feel like these geometric shapes will be a really nice addition to this journal page. I'd love to know, do you guys have a journal that you use regularly? Is it something you enjoy? Is it something that you incorporate into your everyday life? Tell me about your journaling experience, what you love about it, what you're having a hard time with. I just think journals offer a great, safe place to create, and whether you're writing or creating artwork, it's just a great place to get your thoughts out. And again, you don't have to share it with anybody if you don't want to. As I mentioned earlier, we are embarking on a pretty big trip here in a couple weeks, and I am starting to think about what kind of journal I'm going to be bringing and what materials I'm going to be bringing to work in that journal. So it's going to have to be a pretty small, lightweight journal. We are going to be backpacking the whole time, and any pens I bring also need to be, fairly small, and I'm not going to be able to bring a big selection. Definitely not going to bring any paint. However, maybe I'll find some along the way throughout the trip that I can purchase. But I think I'm going to have to go with just some markers and pencils and a journal, and that's okay. Sometimes not having all the things helps me come up with different ideas and different ways of doing things. So I am looking forward to it, though I will miss my studio space here where I can really unfold and have all of my supplies at hand. So I'm actually enjoying this page. I'm really liking how it's looking. I'm going to incorporate a little bit of collage into this, and this is just, I used some tracing paper and just with a Sharpie pen made some black lines on it, and it makes excellent, easy to use collage material. And it's actually making me think maybe I will bring some of this along on our trip because it's so thin and lightweight. I will have to think about that a little bit. It's always fun and also scary for me to incorporate black into my artwork because it's such a bold color, but I have learned to just love it because it really adds the contrast that I need in my work. It gives me a little bit of like excitement. I don't know. It just I really like how it looks. Again, this is a great spot, when you're journaling to use colors that you might not typically use or try different things out because you really have nothing to lose. All right, looking at this journal, I am trying to debate what to do next. If I continue to add layers, we'll keep it as is. And I think I want to tinker with it a little more. So I'm going to grab some of these circle stencils and incorporate that in. I have been loving this fluorescent yellow Posca pen. I enjoy using fluorescent colors in my work, so this fluorescent yellow has just been super fun for me. Gives just enough color. I don't know if the video is going to pick it up enough, but I really, really enjoy using it. One thing that I am constantly having to remind myself with in my artwork is to not overthink it uh, and just kind of go for it because I can get so worried about what something is going to look like. And I just have to remind myself, just don't overthink it, just go for it. And again, especially in a journal where it doesn't matter so much, and it's just a little playground for me to have fun here. So um, yeah, yeah, I'm liking how those circles look. And then I think I'm just going to add one more little bit of detail here using a blue marker to just add some little lines. And I have to say, I'm really happy with this. This makes me feel full of joy. There's a lot of motion going on, a lot of color, a lot of brightness, and it just feels really, really good. If you are still with me, thank you. I hope this has been encouraging for you in your journal practice. And I hope it's helpful and not annoying for me to talk through kind of my thought process when I'm creating. Like I said, several of you have asked why I make a certain mark and how I get started. So hopefully this was helpful for you in that sense. So as always, thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to sharing my next video soon. Cheers, everyone!